How many times a day do you find yourself apologizing for simply existing, taking up space, or having basic human limitations? If you have a history of trauma, over apologizing is often the automatic shield that we throw up to keep people from being upset with us. Today, we are breaking down that reflex and introducing a powerful, steady phrase to anchor your nervous system when the urge to over apologize hits.
Welcome to Reclaiming Me, a trauma-informed podcast helping women with complex PTSD heal the lasting impact of childhood attachment wounds from parents and caregivers, so you can finally release people-pleasing and perfectionism and learn to trust in relationships, beginning with the one you have with yourself. I'm your host, Cindy Payne, therapist, trauma specialist, and a woman who has walked this path both personally and professionally.
Welcome back, everybody, to your midweek reframe on Reclaiming Me. A quick grounded pause in the middle of your week to just realign with your perspective, check in with your body, and really reclaim your inner peace. So let's take some short time together to just reset. And our focus for this midweek reframe rests on 3 core understandings. First, that over-apologizing is a trauma-informed coping mechanism designed to just minimize conflict, really, and keep you safe by taking immediate blame. Second, every time we needlessly apologize for our boundaries, we inadvertently send a message to our own nervous system that our needs are an inconvenience. And third, replacing apologies with the steady declaration, my boundaries are valid, shifts us out of a defensive posture and firmly roots us in our own self-worth. So if you tuned in to Monday's full-length episode, you will know that we were talking all about why setting boundaries is so difficult for CPTSD survivors. And I want to extend on that in today's midweek reframe and talk about a pattern that so many of us with CPTSD know intimately. And that is this automatic, almost compulsive need to say, I'm sorry. We say, I'm sorry, I can't make it to that dinner. I'm sorry, I'm just too tired tonight. I'm sorry, I need to adjust our plans. I'm sorry for answering your text so late. And really, when we're doing this, what we're doing is tacking on an apology to our basic needs, our time, our energy, and our capacity. And in this context of relational trauma, I've said this before, that over apologizing is actually this really brilliant protective reflex. It is a form of fawning. And by apologizing up front, we are trying to just disarm the other person. We are unconsciously saying, please don't be mad at me. Please don't reject me. And look at how small and accommodating I am being. So it is an attempt to manage others' emotional reactions before it even happens. But here is the hidden cost of that reflex. Every single time you apologize for having a limit, you are sending a damaging message to your own internal world. You are reinforcing that old trauma belief that your needs and your preferences are a burden and that your capacity is an inconvenience to other people, and that you only deserve space if you are completely accommodating. And so when we say, I'm sorry, I can't do that, we are secretly asking for permission to have a boundary. We are waiting for the other person to validate it or to tell us it's okay. But if you listen to Monday's full-length episode, a boundary does not require a consensus, and it certainly does not require an apology. And so this week, I want to invite you into a powerful reframe. And the next time you feel that familiar urgent rush to over apologize for setting a limit, I want you to really just pause for 5 minutes, even take a deep breath and just really start to take an inventory of the tension that's building up in your body. Maybe it's in your shoulders or, like me, in your stomach. And gently just catch that apology before it leaves your mouth. And instead of saying, I'm sorry, see if you can practice this internal script. My boundaries are valid. And when we look at this tendency to tack an apology onto our basic needs, we have to connect it back to what we talked about on Monday's episode. And we were looking at how living with complex PTSD can make us feel like we are surviving in a house with the front door taken entirely off of its hinges. So we spend all of our energy trying to manage everyone else's emotional weather just to keep ourselves safe. And if you grew up or survived in an environment where having a need or a limit was met with anger or rejection or withdrawal, then over apologizing became your shield. It was this brilliant, necessary way to soften the blow. You were trying to fix their reaction before it even happened. But as we reclaim our lives and practice emotional sobriety, the shift happens when we realize that a boundary has nothing to do with the other person. It is not about forcing them to see things your way, and it is not about getting their permission to protect your own peace. So when you catch that apology before it leaves your mouth this week, remember that you are putting the door back on its hinges. So you don't need to say, I'm sorry for having a door. And you certainly don't need a consensus from the rest of the world to close that door. Your capacity is not an inconvenience, and your time is not a burden, and your boundaries are entirely valid just as they are. You don't even have to say it out loud to the other person because so much of this work is an inside job. And when you have to tell someone no, or alter a plan, or protect your quiet time, state your limit clearly and cleanly without the buffer of an apology. And then, as the discomfort of the old trauma guilt rises up in your body, repeat that anchor phrase to yourself like a soothing mantra. My boundaries are valid, my limits are allowed, and I do not have to apologize for taking care of my peace right now. And this small shift completely changes your posture, because what it's doing is it's moving you out of this defensive, anxious place of survival, and it's grounding you firmly in the truth of your own worth. Your energy, your time, and your mental health are finite resources, and protecting them isn't an offense that you need to make amends for. It is your fundamental right. And so before you head back into the rest of your week, remember these 3 things. Over apologizing is just an old shield that you used to keep yourself safe. So you can thank it for its service and then gently set it down. Apologizing for your limits teaches your body that your needs are an inconvenience. And finally, you can drop the apology and anchor yourself in the steady truth. My boundaries are valid. As you move through the rest of this week, I invite you to pay attention to where the apologies are slipping out and really challenge yourself to let your no or I can't right now stand on its own 2 feet without any justification or hand-wringing. You don't need to apologize for being human, and you don't need to apologize for protecting your heart. You are doing the beautiful, necessary work of reclaiming yourself. And also, be sure to join me this next Monday for another full-length episode where we are going to do a deep dive into the actual architecture of boundaries. We are going to be exploring exactly why setting these limits can feel like an absolute battleground for our inner critic, and practical ways to clear out the external noise so that you can protect your hard-won internal peace. So have a gentle, grounded rest of the week, everyone, and I'll see you back here next Monday. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for spending this time with me today. I hope you leave feeling a little lighter, a little more grounded, and a little closer to trusting yourself and your inner experience. If this episode resonated with you, please follow or subscribe so future conversations can meet you when they're needed. And if someone came to mind while you were listening, consider sharing this episode with them. That's one of the ways this work reaches the people who need it the most. You can find me on Instagram at Cindy Payne Rooted, and you can also visit me at cindypayne.com, where you'll find all episode links, blog posts, practice updates, and a free people-pleasing style quiz designed to help you notice your patterns with more compassion. And remember, every small step towards healing, self-trust, and presence matters. You are worthy of this journey. Thanks, everyone.